Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and haunts.
Today's story takes us to an alleyway in Philadelphia. I'm Sarah.
And I'm David.
Let's get into it. So today we're discussing Elfreth's alley, and I did not think it was an actual alley when I looked it up, but it is an actual alley.
Not only is it an alley, you can drive down it.
Can you?
Yeah, wasn't where we went walked through quite a few homes?
Yeah, but I didn't think you could drive a car down it. I think you used to be able to drive a car down it.
No, the tour guides outside were telling me that you can not only drive down it, but they have special garbage trucks to go down it that are thin and very tall.
That's what I was thinking. Like, it's so thin. Okay, cool. So yeah, we went and visited this place. And to start with the history, this dates back to 1703 and is one of the longest continuously inhabited streets in America, if not the longest. Many of the structures on the street are hundreds of years old, primarily ranging from 1720 to 1836, and I can confirm the homes do look old there and absolutely beautiful. One's actually for sale right now, but it didn't advertise how much it was going for. You have to call the man. Some of the buildings are private homes, as I just referenced, but there's also a museum on the street. This alley was not part of the original plans for Philly, but as the city began to develop, artisans and merchants wanted to be closer to the port and have a more direct route. So this alley being formed made it easier to transport goods because previous routes led to overcrowding and overuse because there were such few routes to the port. Arthur Wells and John Gilbert opened this path between their properties to help artisans and merchants get to the port, and it later became known as Elfreth's Alley, named after Jeremiah Elfreth, a blacksmith and land developer. And I think it's interesting it's not named for the people that opened the original path, but I don't know. Fun fact, Betsy Ross actually temporarily lived here, although we do cover her actual home in a different episode. In the 1960s, Elfreth Alley Association got this alley landmark status, and it's currently still thriving. You can travel to it at any time because it is an alleyway, but the museum is open on weekends, April through October, and it's open from 12 to 4. Admission is $3 for adults, and we did go through the museum. It was very sweaty in there because it was hot out. So anything to add about just the experience of the alley before we get into the ghost story?
Yeah, it was really cool. A lot of placards, a lot of information to read on it. Are you going to talk about the family that we walked through with?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Found it very interesting that this family were merchants, or artisans, I should say.
Yeah, they were dressmakers, right?
I believe so. And so they were always so focused on making dresses that they ate out every night. So I guess it was profitable too, so good for them. But what kind of blew my mind is this was a very small home, and they had 8 children in there,
yeah.
if I remember correctly.
All on one floor.
All on one floor. So that was mind-boggling. But yeah, it was very neat. And it was hot because it rained, so the humidity was spiked. But
yeah. So now to get into the ghost story. Many, many people have lived on this street since it's been around since 1703. And reports say that previous inhabitants tend to actually haunt it. Residents and visitors alike have both reported paranormal happenings. According to local lore, one of the most popular ghosts is a soldier who was hanged because they were a spy during the Revolutionary War. Unfortunately, there's no historical record to confirm this, but the local lore continues to perpetuate it. There are some reports of this soldier walking around with a noose around his neck, which I can imagine would be pretty jarring to see, but others are just of seeing a soldier haunting the alley.
How do you think he got his noose?
I literally said he was hung because he was a spy during the Revolutionary War.
I guess he wasn't a very good spy.
He was not a very good spy. Read him for filth, jeez.
Well, I mean, yeah.
He was a spy. So visitors often capture strange orbs and shadow figures in photographs. In addition to those shadow figures, There are lights and voices that are regularly reported, and people often catch ghostly images on their cameras. We took a ton of photos. I mean, you really took all the photos, and we didn't capture anything. Even inside, I took some photos inside the house that you mentioned, and I didn't capture anything.
Yeah, sadly nothing.
It's disappointing.
It was a hot, humid day. I understand why the ghosts weren't out.
Yeah, I would have stayed inside. I don't know if I would have stayed inside. They didn't have air conditioning.
I wonder what the ghostly voices have been reported to say.
It didn't say. I wish that we knew.
Because the assumption would be English, but Philadelphia was such a culturally rich and language diverse area that I don't know if it would all be English.
That's a really good point, actually. I don't know. It didn't say. It just said ghostly voices. Some people claim to be choked unexplainably while walking down the alley, and this may be connected to the hanging. Some say it could be because the pollution plagued the streets over the years, back when it was used as a merchant route. People have also reported intense headaches while walking the streets, which could be from the same causes, like hanging, lack of oxygen to the brain, or pollution causing a headache. I did have a headache when we were there, but as we've said multiple times now, it was terribly, terribly hot.
Yeah, I mean, it was hot, but I don't know.
You're from Georgia, you tolerate heat better.
Yeah, the choking is interesting. That makes me think of the spy, who was not a very good spy. And it does make me wonder, though, if it is only just the spy.
Oh, like if there was another person that's haunting it and we just don't know.
Yeah, something along those lines.
That could be cool.
I don't know. The pollution's also very interesting. So is it like the ground's just contaminated and so we're always breathing in that pollution? Or how does that work in with the paranormal?
It's the idea of like the ghost making you experience what it experienced. Of like the ghost experienced intense pollution, so now it's pushing that on people. Another happening reported is that cell phone batteries rapidly drain on the alleyway. And in previous episodes, we've talked about ghosts having negative interactions with technology because they don't understand it or they don't know what it is. So they just exert negative energy over it. And I don't think we had that experience. We were out all day and our phone batteries lasted, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but we also weren't using them very frequently aside from taking pictures. You know?
That's true. Well, and mapping between places.
Well, that was primarily you.
Yeah. But it wasn't, my point is it wasn't like any rapid drain that I thought was unrealistic. Some local paranormal groups have had public ghost hunts here, but I couldn't find any upcoming or recent ones or the findings of any of them, which was really interesting to me. We also have some friends in the paranormal community that said they did a ghost hunt here on Halloween, our friends at Twice the Terror, and I couldn't find any findings on that. We did ask the people at the museum, and they said they hadn't experienced any ghosts here, and we did use the EMF reader in the museum, throughout the alley, and in the garden behind the house that we went in, but it was at 1 the whole time. I know that you talked to the people that worked there a lot longer than I did, so did you glean anything else from them?
No, they personally hadn't experienced anything, and then even after talking to them a bit longer, nothing.
Yeah, they seemed kind of surprised that I asked them when I did ask.
Well,
they said, like, oh, you would think we'd have, but...
But I guess also, when we talk about when the most activity happens, it's generally at night, and they close at 4, open
That's
at
true.
10.
That's true.
So very much less opportunity.
Yeah. The final thing that people report is seeing ghosts in the windows of the various houses. And I think that's interesting because it is an alleyway, there's not many things for you to interact with as you go. It's just the alley itself. So I think it would be interesting to be walking by and just see a ghost in a window. But then that begs the question of how you know it's a ghost. So I think that's interesting.
The ghost in the window is always an interesting one because it can be an actual person. It could just be drapes. It could be a literal mannequin. Some places will do that.
I did think about that because in the house there was that like dress form to show about the dresses that they made.
Yeah, and so at night people can easily mistake it for a person.
Yeah. I will say, this was listed as one of the most haunted places in Philadelphia, so I was a bit disappointed that there wasn't more haunting to it. But I guess maybe you have to do a ghost hunt to experience it for yourself. So that being said, would you visit this place of paranormal phenomena? Would you visit it at day, night, and ghost hunt?
Yes, yes, yes. I would visit it again during the day, preferably not when it's raining, but I'd visit again. I'd also happily do it at night, and I would happily do it in a ghost hunt.
Yeah, I think it would be really fun to go for a ghost hunt here. I think Old Philadelphia just has so much to offer, and I think it would be nice to visit it when it wasn't really hot and humid out, because we had just stood in the rain and then walked in high humidity. So I feel like I couldn't really appreciate the museum as much as you did. I know you definitely read more. I was like, okay, this is our last stop. Let's get this done and then go to McGillen's Ale House, which is technically haunted, but had air conditioning. So I guess was another stop. So yeah, I would love to go back and investigate it a little more. Maybe even just take some more time to appreciate the architecture.
Yeah. I mean, that was my first time really spending a lot of time in historic Philly, so I'd go back.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of Paranormal in Pennsylvania. Tune in next Thursday to see what we discuss next, and stay spooky, my friends.